Hey, everybody. This is the AFC Championship preview edition of the Jungle Roar podcast, episode 29 in season number 1. I am joined again by one of our regulars, might as well, the guy who sat next to me in Nashville, Tennessee, at Nissan Stadium for all of Saturday afternoon's epic on the Cumberland River. I don't think that exactly rolls off your lips, but that's James Rapien I'm speaking to for this episode of the Jungle Roar podcast. You can follow him on Twitter, as always, at James Rapien, all one word. He does tremendous work. He really does, for SI.com and allbengals.com and the Locked On podcast. You psyched? You pumped and geeked for Sunday in KC?
Yeah, I was almost as excited as I was to ride with you to Nashville and back, Trags.
Okay.
I think
we'll get into that a little bit. Sure.
I definitely excited. Look, this franchise has never gotten this close in my lifetime. I can feel it. You're right. I can feel the excitement in the city. And not just the city, but throughout every Bengals fan, it seems like that I see or see on social media or whatever the case is. So I'm excited, but I want them to finish it because
yes,
it feels like there's so many people that they're young and they're
no.
They've come too far now, and I get it's an improbable, surprising run.
Right.
But if they don't slay this dragon, then who knows what happens next year? And you know how hard it is to get back to the AFC title game. So they got to take advantage.
Nothing can be taken for granted. That's why I am with you 1,000% when you say, or you kind of cringe when you hear people talk about, oh, it's been a great run. If they lose in Kansas City, still a great year. And I'm like, you want them to finish the deal. They're going to have to play close to a perfect game, I think. Certainly they're going to give up their points. If you give up 24, 28 points, it's still a winnable game to me. What they cannot have happen, as I've said to you from the moment the Bills choked away that lead in the final 13 seconds and eventually lost in overtime to the Chiefs, is the thing they can't do is fall behind 14 points 3 different times at Arrowhead and expect to win the game. That's just not going to happen this time around.
No, you're absolutely right. You get down 14-0 and you're not going to be able to hear. It's going to be too loud. It's over. And it honestly, it needs to be the other way, where you need to get the Chiefs on their heels a little bit, because even though they're on their heels, right? 14-0, 21-7, 28-14, even if you have that lead, they're not concerned, just like you weren't that concerned going into halftime when it was 28-17 in week 17 at Paul Brown Stadium. They've been there. They've done that. And so a good start is such a big key. And I feel like I say it every week, but when you're on the road in the postseason, if you get down, I get it. You got Joe Burrow, you have all these weapons, but if you get down early by multiple scores, it is tough to recover from.
To me, the biggest reason they beat Tennessee on Saturday in Nashville, they never trailed ever. They were up 6-0. The game was tied. They went for 2, didn't make it. It was 6-6. They were up 9-6. They were up 16-6. Obviously, the Titans came back, tied it at 16. They never trailed on the road. And that is, to me, starting point number 1. That is the top of the list in terms of priorities, in terms of winning a playoff game on the road.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because if you get down and you have to throw it and you're forced to completely get one-dimensional or maybe push the ball down the field, it just makes it really tough, and defenses can tee off and they can do things. I'm not saying it's impossible, right? If they get down 10-0, the game isn't over. Of course it's not, but you don't want to put yourself in that position because it's really tough to dig yourself out of. And I think they know that. And they've been really good at, they trailed the Raiders 3-0. And since then they haven't trailed. You're right.
Right.
And they'll probably trail at a point on Sunday. But if it's 3-0 or 7-0, that's much, much different than chasing the Chiefs. And you can't chase them. You want to make them chase you, and you have the firepower on offense to hold them off a bit. But getting out to that early lead certainly matters.
To a degree, I think that's what cost Buffalo on Sunday because, yes, they had the lead the final 13 seconds. They had the lead before that. But for the first 3 quarters of that game on Sunday, they were chasing the Chiefs. And it's just almost impossible from 7-0 down, 14-7, 21-14, 23-14. And it was 17-14, then 23-14. They missed the extra point, but they were always chasing the Chiefs. And the Bengals don't want to find themselves in that position. I was there 3 years ago in Kansas City, the first of the 4 straight AFC Championship games now at Arrowhead, 4 straight, concluding this Sunday with the game against the Bengals. And in that game, the Patriots led, I think most people remember, 14-0 at the half. The Chiefs woke up in the third quarter. Then you had a, back and forth, very, very similar to what happened on Sunday with the Bills. And, they're in that position, the Patriots were lucky to win the overtime coin toss. The Bills were not so fortunate on Sunday. But I think what it gets down to me is, can a team go into an environment like that and not have the situation be too big? That's where I love Joe Burrow. And Brian Callahan talked about this with us on Zoom on Monday. And Lou Anarumo touched on it a little bit, Darren Simmons as well. If the moment's not too big, you can go anywhere and win a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it starts there. It starts with the quarterback, and he's not going to be scared or afraid or worried about this situation, about this moment.
Not at all.
And you expect him to play well in this moment, which is wild to think about for Cincinnati fans that, never saw Carson Palmer play huge in a playoff game. Part of that had to do with his injury in 2005. And then the other thing is Andy Dalton, it seemed like, always seemed to end the season on a whimper in big moments and always seemed to shrink. Joe Burrow doesn't shrink. And it's not just him. It's Jamar Chase doesn't shrink. I mean, I'm sure the Chiefs are going to guard him differently. And you might ask me about that. Well, guess what? I'm not worried about Jamar Chase not being ready. Evan McPherson doesn't shrink. These guys have played in huge games with a hell of a lot on the line, and they're extremely confident. And then on defense, they have a lot of veterans that have been there and played in big time playoff games at the NFL level. And so that helps. So I agree with you, Burrow. He's not going to flinch. He's going to be ready. And I expect him. He didn't play great against Tennessee, right? The numbers are great. I think he did a good job of overcoming the things that he didn't do well, but he didn't play great. And I expect him to play great on Sunday against the Chiefs. That doesn't mean they're going to win, but I expect number 9 to be on time, accurate, and everything you expect him to be.
Part of the reason he was sacked 9 times. Yes, the offensive line looked overmatched, totally overmatched at times on Saturday. There's no question about that. Everybody blowing up, our Twitter feeds during the game when we were at the stadium, and, everybody's saying how this offensive line is a joke, blah, 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 blah. Part of it was Joe was holding on to the ball too long. And you made a great point during the game, and I think it's a very valid one that has kind of been substantiated by Burrow after the game, and certainly by Brian Callahan on Monday. It took him a while to recognize some of the things that Tennessee was doing. And when that happens, even with a second-year quarterback who's as bright as Joe Burrow is, he's going to have to learn to get rid of the ball and not take, 10 and 12-yard sacks that put you out of field goal range. People forget that before Tennessee got the ball, before Tannehill's interception, the Bengals were driving. They had taken the clock down from something like 7 minutes down to about 3.5 minutes, and Burrow takes the sack at midfield. That cannot happen in Kansas City on Sunday, right?
100% right. Can't happen. And if you're defensive coordinator, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, I get it. They don't run a lot of twists and stunts usually. I'm twisting and stunting like I'm doing hair. I'm doing all of these different things that I can do to try to confuse this offensive line, because that was the one time. And part of it was Burrow had a window to throw it away on the sack you're talking about, but there was someone on him so quick, and he evaded that defender, but he had to backtrack a bit, and then it led to him losing even more yards. You're right. It can't happen.
Part of that, though, to me,
go ahead.
is, and not to interrupt you, James, but it's my podcast. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. By the way, your picture just went away. You still there? There you go. Anyway, I got lost. Burrow can't take as deep of a. If he is that deep in his drop, he's got to know, if the read isn't there, I got to get rid of it right now. He can't turn his back. There's no, once he turned on that play, he was screwed because there was nowhere else to go. And they had him.
They did. And I will say, though, I watched the all 22, and I think I know why he did that. Streaks, guys open downfield. If he gets just away, that might have been the knockout blow. He might have had the touchdown. And that's part of it. Maybe that's why he did it. But to your point, it's probably 3 points with Evan McPherson, and the way he's kicking, you have to play it safe to a degree, but it's tough. On Sunday against the Chiefs, 3 isn't going to get it done. It's gotten it done the past couple of weeks, not this week.
Here's the way I view that. I mean, to me, that I cringe a little bit when I hear, 3's. Well, 3's going to get it done at the end of a close game, as we saw on January 2nd.
Agreed.
Right. But they have to score touchdowns in the red area. That, to me, is where the Bengals have been poor. They've been bad. And I wrote about it today on clnsmedia.com. And that is, the Bengals' strength on defense has been their weakness on offense, executing in the red area. And I believe they are 3 for 8 in the red area in the postseason. They are 2 for 8, 6 for 8 in defensive red area execution. So they've been great defensively, but they've got to score touchdowns in the red area, and they can't run the ball for whatever reason, with the one exception of Joe Mixon's backside run. Is a great seal on the backside, that touchdown run. That's been the only exception to their inability to run the ball in the red area.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns. That's wild to me. Evan McPherson is responsible for 27 of their 45 points. Like, that's insane. And yet it's very real for this Bengals offense. And that's what I mean by 3 isn't going to get it done. Of course, 3 matters at the end of the half. I don't mean go for it every time. I think these, honestly, I'll say it, whatever. It's your podcast, but I'm going to say this. A lot of these idiots that say, all right, 3 is playing not to lose when it's like 4th and 8 on the 30. No, it's not. You take points when you can get them. It matters. Points matter. Right. Ask the Chargers and Brandon Staley when they went for it 52 times against the Chiefs and came up laying out every single one.
Where's Ben Baby? We need to bring Ben Baby in here out of a cloud somewhere and discuss this, but go ahead, continue.
It's too cold for Ben. He's in his basement bundled up because it's too cold out here in these Cincinnati streets for him. But totally. So that's the thing. You go for it when it makes sense to go for it. You can't settle for 3 if you have the ball inside that. You need to find a way to score touchdowns. And the good news is, I think it's solvable. I think they can do that, and they better do that if they want to beat the Chiefs.
The other thing, and we saw this against the Raiders, was the on-time shot, the dot to CJ Uzomah for a touchdown pass in the red zone. That's what they've got to do. And they have got to find ways to get CJ Uzomah. I don't care if it's Uzomah, Mixon, deeper into the route to get him deeper, closer to the goal line. They've got to find a way, other than the wide receivers in the end zone, to score touchdowns. And, until, if they don't do that Sunday, there's no chance of them winning.
Yeah. And you know what that means? That means unique packages, unique things that maybe the Chiefs haven't seen. You catch them off guard. Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor, this is your moment.
Yep.
This is the moment. That doesn't mean you get crazy, but maybe there's a Chris Evans package. Maybe there's a wrinkle here. Maybe there's a wrinkle there where the Chiefs are thrown off and you catch them off guard. You don't want to leave any stone unturned in this game. No one expects you to win, which is a very dangerous spot to be in. I get you expect to win, but it's a very dangerous place to be in a good way, where you can just throw haymaker after haymaker at the Chiefs and their offensive minds, right? So you would expect them to have a couple tricks up their sleeve for sure.
Okay, I want to get speaking with James Rapien, at James Rapien, all one word on Twitter, allbengals.com, does a incredible job on the Locked On podcast, only daily Bengals podcast out there. So please do, after you listen to this, tune that in if you haven't already. But what I want to get to is everybody talks about Patrick Mahomes and their aerial assault. Of course, it's great. He can throw the ball to obviously any one of Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Byron Pringle, McCole Hardman, as we saw. We saw Demarcus Robinson catch a touchdown pass back on January 2nd, but their running attack scares me more than even their passing attack. And that's because I think the Bengals have been susceptible to runs on the perimeter. Is that what concerns you the most about the Bengals defense going into Sunday?
The most? No. The most is, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. But come on, Trags. Are you serious?
I think
Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Their speed concerns me because
I'm not saying they're not good, because they are concerning. They're playing well. But it's 87 and
yes,
come on.
But they know 87 and 10 are out there, right? We saw that on January 2nd. They had answers for and part of it was the complexity, and I wrote about this. The complexity with which they're playing defense, they're changing their defenses at different depths to handle Kansas City's passing game. The problem is, if you go back and look at that game on January 2nd, you go back and look at what the Chiefs did to the Bills on Sunday, the Chiefs' ability to run the ball and gash them, either with Patrick Mahomes right up the middle, as we saw a couple of times, or with who was it on the perimeter that ran very, very well? It was, help me out here. It was Jerick McKinnon. You already mentioned him. Jerick McKinnon had a couple of huge runs. Mm-hmm. That speed on the perimeter, their ability to run the ball does concern me, especially even on 3rd and 5. Are the Bengals going to be able to make a stop?
It's concerning, but is it the big, and so that's it. But no, I agree with you. I think your overall point, are their running backs good enough to beat you? They are, because you're going to be focused on those other things, especially, right? That's not your main focus. And so if they're beating you on the ground, odds are they're going to beat you through the air. And so that part is tough. You don't want these running backs to get off and start going crazy and all of that. At the same time, it's still scarier with 10 and 87. And I don't think, maybe you think they can duplicate what they did on December 2nd or on January 2nd. Me, I don't. I think that is pie in the sky. But there's no way they hold those dudes to 65 yards total. Zero chance. I have the stats here. I believe it was 65 yards total. There's just no way that happens to me.
Here's why that doesn't bother me. If both of those guys go for over 100, 125 yards, if they do so in between the 20s, I don't think this is right out of the Bill Belichick school of defense. I don't give a shit what you do between the 20s. You're not scoring touchdowns when you get to the red area. And that is precisely what Lou Anarumo, the Bengals defensive coordinator, talked about on Monday with us on the Zoom. He said, look, this isn't about yards. We don't want to give up 400 or 500 yards like we, did against the Jets, for instance. That was a horrible, horrible display, terrible tackling. But what cannot happen is we cannot allow them to convert 4 or 5 in the red zone, or we're going to lose. And they've got to minimize the red area opportunities for the Chiefs to field goals and not let them score touchdowns. And to me, that's why they've won their first 2 playoff games this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I just think, I see what you're saying. And so to me, I'm still more concerned, maybe not Tyreek Hill, I guess, but Travis Kelce in the red zone is a nightmare, right? Sure. He's very, very, very
won the
tough.
game in the red zone.
Exactly. So that would still be my top concern. At the same time, to your point, a lot of people do sleep on the idea that the Chiefs have a good running game, and it's been up and down this year, but Jerick McKinnon looks healthy and explosive. And once upon a time, he was going to be the next great back in Kyle Shanahan's offense for the 49ers, and he couldn't stay healthy. And I thought he was going to go off, and I think a lot of people did. Looks like he's looking a lot like that guy that we remember. And then as far as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Joe Burrow knows him very well. Joe Burrow made him a lot of money and vice versa. So,
right. That's true.
He's certainly a dangerous weapon out of the backfield.
So it'll be interesting to see how Lou Anarumo comes up with a game plan, how much he changes, how much do you think he's going to change his game plan? Do you think he's going to tweak some things or give him a totally different look altogether? Or do you think it depends on what the Chiefs show him first?
No, I think he's going to tweak some things for sure right away. I think you're going to have to, because if you do the same thing, the Chiefs are just going to say, oh, we studied this, and they're going to go to work. So they're going to have to. He's going to have some wrinkles. The wrinkle at the end of that Week 17 matchup was zero blitzing Patrick Mahomes on third down. A lot of defensive coordinators fake the zero blitz against Mahomes. Lou didn't at that moment. You better believe Mahomes is going to remember that. What does he have in store now? Will he do that in that same situation? Will he not? How will he disguise it? That's the chess match.
Here's my theory on the zero blitz. You're going to zero blitz maybe red area or red area out to maybe the 30. But the reason you don't zero blitz Patrick Mahomes any deeper than that, like at let's say midfield, or if you have the Chiefs in their own territory, the reason you don't want to really zero blitz is it leaves one less defender deep. And that's where, to me, if you allow the Chiefs to exploit you deep over the top, that's where you can get in trouble. And that's where, and this is off the path a little bit, but what the 49ers, what Tampa Bay did against Cooper
I was
Kupp
thinking the same thing.
was inexcusable. You can't do that. Or they say that it wasn't communicated and that the safety didn't get the call. That's why Kupp ran right past him. But even so, that is a big gamble to take when you have the game tied and all you're trying to do is keep them, from getting to your 43-yard line.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. What a ridiculous call that was. Totally agree. I thought Brady was about
Tommy on the sidelines.
Yep. Keep rubbing it in. But it was ridiculous, and you can't make those type of decisions. And speaking of that, like the downfield stuff, I thought Chidobe Awuzie had his worst game of the year against the Titans. He got beat multiple times. It was a tough matchup against AJ Brown, this big physical receiver. He's going to have a chance to redeem himself this week and live to play another day. And hopefully for the Bengals' sake, he does, because the last thing you want to do is end the year on a game where you just get beat the way he got beat. It seemed like time and time again.
One of them, I think, on one of the deep balls to AJ Brown, he slipped and fell. The other one, he didn't turn around in time, and the ball came right over his shoulder, and AJ Brown that was a touchdown, obviously. So anyway, yes. Chidobe has to have a better game. I think he will. I think he'll respond to the challenge. It's a moment for Eli Apple. It's a pretty huge moment for Eli Apple. And I think the Chiefs are going to test him early on to say, okay, Eli, you think you've come that far? Let's see. And I think they're going to put some speed on him and see how his technique holds up. And, that's going to be fascinating for me to watch early on in this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, if I'm any of these teams, I get Eli's played well. I'm attacking that man. I'm attacking him and attacking him and attacking him, and finding ways to put pressure on him. He gave up the touchdown in that wild card round to the Raiders. And then last week, Zay Jones had the touchdown. And then last week, he's okay. Julio beat him a couple times, but, Julio's not the Julio we remember. I think that was pretty clear. But this is different. This is Mahomes, and whether it's Byron Pringle or whoever, they have weapons now, and it's not just one guy. Pringle's someone that you could look up and he could have 2 or 3 touchdowns on Sunday, and it would not shock me one bit. And that means Eli Apple isn't having his best day, so they're going to need him to play well to have a chance. And ultimately, Trags, I think it comes down to offense. I do. I don't know if this defense is going to be able to slow down Mahomes and company. So the offense is going to have to make up for that.
Okay, let's by the way, we shouldn't forget that Byron Pringle had an 89-yard touchdown on a kickoff return that was called back right before halftime. That was a monumentally huge play. And then seconds later was the Von Bell punch out of the ball in Tyreek Hill's hands on the bomb that Patrick Mahomes threw down the middle of the field that still is giving Lou Anarumo nightmares, because I think the reason it does is he's like, that better not happen this Sunday. We better not allow him to get that far deep, that by himself, or Von Bell may not be in position to knock the ball out.
Yeah. And it was a great play by Von Bell. That's not who I want one-on-one with Tyreek Hill ever.
Of course not.
That's that's like Buck style defense, right? And again, not being mean to Von Bell at all, but that's where you're hoping Jesse Bates is, or really one of your corners. That's what you want. You don't want it to be that situation, but Von Bell did make the play.
Okay, what do the Bengals need from their offense on Sunday in terms of Joe Mixon, Chris Evans, and the running attack? Because you're talking about playing defense against Patrick Mahomes. Total cliche coming up here. Cliche bell, ding, ding, ding. The best defense is keeping it out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
And if the Bengals can find a way to run the ball against this front, which I think they can, I think that is their best way to get out to an early lead, to make sure that the track meet doesn't begin in the first half of this game. There's going to be a track meet element of this game at some point. What I don't think the Bengals want is for it to be in the first quarter, early second quarter, and for this game to get out of hand on the road.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And they're going to need the run, right? They're going to need Joe Mixon to play well. And he quietly had over 100 yards from scrimmage against the Titans, and played pretty well in the second half, I thought, considering it wasn't like there was a ton of running lanes. They're going to need him to do that again. And he averaged 3.8 yards per carry against the Chiefs in the first matchup. You'll probably take that. You're hoping for a little better. I think 4-2, 4-3, maybe even 4-5. You're hoping, but you'll take it. You just it needs to be enough to where you can keep the Chiefs honest. There's another cliche, and just hold back the pass rush just a little bit, where it's like, all right, Mixon's in the backfield. This could be a run. This might not. And then the other thing is, I just want the ball in the hands of my playmakers in these big games. And so who is that? That's Joe Mixon. It's Jamar Chase in no particular order. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, CJ Uzama obviously has made some plays specifically in the postseason, but it's also Chris Evans. And this needs to be, I've been saying it. It seems like I've been saying it for damn near 3 months. Chris Evans can be a difference maker, and maybe they've been saving him for something like this, some kind of rainy day. Well, now it's pouring. Now it's time to use him if you think he can help you. And I do. And I think the coaching staff is high on him. And so whatever it is, you'll have 2 weeks to cook up something else. You just need to find a way to get through this Chiefs team. And so if they have a wrinkle or two involving number 25, then they need to do it, because Samaje Perine damn near cost them the game. And I know that wasn't an interception. It was a BS call, but almost cost him the game with his hands there. You can't have that this week.
Nope. Yeah. By the way, I have come back off the ledge a little bit on that call. I still think it was pretty clear that the ground assisted that pick by Amani Hooker. Correct. Thank you. I think the ground.
What did you say? No, just go ahead.
Stop it. I think the ground clearly assisted Hooker in his pick there, but whatever, the Bengals were able to come back after the Titans tied it off that interception and tied the game at 16. And they showed some real balls. I thought the Bengals showed total grit and determination on Saturday to win that game on the road, with how much things had turned against them late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter. I want to talk about Kansas City's front as we wrap it up here. James Rapien of allbengals.com. I don't think enough people are talking about Chris Jones and Melvin Ingram. He is somebody who has made a huge difference in the Kansas City defense since he was acquired. And, he was acquired in a trade with the Steelers. Do you think he could have a big impact on Sunday, and what do the Bengals do to account for him?
100%. He was someone that I thought the Bengals should have signed before camp. He ended up going to the Steelers, and the Steelers didn't play him like they should have. And so now, yeah, he goes to the Chiefs for basically nothing. And look, he's standing in the way of the Bengals. And one of the reasons why this Chiefs defensive front is so scary. I totally think he can be a game changer on the edge. And, depending on the metrics you look at, Isaiah Prince played pretty well last week overall, despite what it looked like from the offensive line. You need him to do it again this week. And then Jonah Williams, you got to rebound. You got to rebound and be much better than you were against the Titans. And he's certainly capable of that. And that's the thing is they escaped Tennessee with a win, but a lot of these guys didn't play near to their potential. And we know the offensive line is going to be an issue. I think the good news is going into this game, you don't see them do the Chiefs defensive front. They don't do a lot of twists and stunts, right. But I would expect them, because if you're Steve Spagnuolo, like I said, why wouldn't you do what that Tennessee defense did a little bit? Because it confused Burrow some. It certainly confused the Bengals offensive line, and it made it tough on the offense. So I would expect some of that. But to answer your question, yeah, I think Melvin Ingram still a game-changing type player. I was shocked that he was on the market for as long as he was this offseason. And the Chiefs got a former Pro Bowler that's certainly capable of being a game changer.
They had 4 sacks and 6 quarterback hurries on Burrow on January 2nd. It wasn't as bad and brutal as last Saturday in Tennessee, but still, this Kansas City team is certainly capable of putting pressure on Joe Burrow and the Bengals offensive line. The Bengals just got to be better, as we said earlier, getting the ball out on time. I think it's another close game. I think it comes down to Evan McPherson, and I think he kicks the Bengals to the Super Bowl. You?
I still don't know, right? So we're recording this on Tuesday. No cop out. It's tough. I could certainly see that. I'm sure I'm going to go back and forth. I went back and forth a lot last week before ultimately picking the Bengals. I'll probably do the same this week. Who knows who I'll pick, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that scenario plays out. And I would not rule that out. And I could ultimately lean that way. But man, they need to play almost a damn near perfect game on offense, Trags. I mean, that's what it comes down to me. And if they can do that, and I think it's possible, again, with Joe Burrow, threw for 446 and 4 touchdowns.
Correct.
He might not have those numbers. He needs to play at that level, maybe even a little better. I mean, it's going to have to be a great performance. And if he does that, if this offense plays to its potential, I think they have a real puncher's chance.
37-34 Bengals.
Wow.
Look at they're going to put up a lot of I see a lot of similarities between this Bengal team and the Patriot team that went into Kansas City back in 2018. And I'll tell you, I think this Bengals team is more talented offensively. I really do. Yes, that team had Gronk and had Edelman and Rex Burkhead, who scored the game winner in that game, by the way, in overtime for the Patriots. But I think this Bengals team has more weapons that scare Steve Spagnuolo. And I think the Bengals are going to get it done in the end. I think they have the mojo going, and I think it continues in KC.
Yeah, sign me up for that, because that means that we're going to SoFi Stadium, that we're going to the Super Bowl to cover that.
And we're not driving. So I did survive a trip, and you, more importantly, survived a trip with me down to Nashville. I was very impressed with how calm you were with me, because I can be moody. I can be manic, as I said many times in the car. I can swing from one mood to the next within, a snap of your fingers. Literally.
Oh, it was fun. No, it was a lot of fun riding down and riding back. And I think we made good time, and it was a fun weekend. Yeah, but you're right. We will not drive to SoFi if that happens, but we'll see what happens at Arrowhead. I know this. I'm looking forward to some barbecue. I've never been to Kansas City.
Oh, the best barbecue. All due respect to Nashville, which was terrific. We went to a nice place on Friday night. But what you're going to experience in Kansas City is something altogether different. It is fantastic food. Fantastic.
Can't wait. I'm excited. I can't.
You get there Saturday? Is that the plan? Sometime?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is go to St. Louis and hang out in St. Louis on Friday night.
Oh, and then, okay. Break it up.
Yeah, and then go Saturday morning.
Good.
Yeah, and then that way, you knock out a couple cities, have some fun, and then Sunday cover the game, and we'll see. Who knows? Because maybe I'll just hitchhike from there to SoFi Stadium for the Super Bowl. You never know.
All right, it sounds like a plan. I don't think you'll follow through on that plan. I think
not the last part. Everything else is real, but not the last part.
All right, that's James Rapien. He does an outstanding job for Locked On Bengals, that podcast. It's the only daily Bengals podcast out there. Obviously, read his stuff on allbengals.com. Tremendous writer, great friend, and happy to call him a traveling companion for AFC Divisional Weekend. You were awesome. You're awesome on this podcast, as you always are. Follow him on Twitter at James Rapien, all one word. For James Rapien, I'm Mike Petralia, and this has been episode 29, the AFC Championship edition of the Jungle Roar podcast.